Thanks for joining me this week as I continue my adventures on foot in the African bush. Last week I had some interesting encounters with some Cape buffalo, and I also stumbled across a really cute flapneck chameleon. This week though, things get a little wilder. As a reptile lover, it's definitely one of the things I was looking forward to most coming to Africa. And this is the first rock monitor that I've ever found. And it was interesting to try and catch. They are super fast. So once I managed to get my hands on it, then I was able to take a closer look at it. So here I have a rock monitor. It's Africa's second longest monitor species, second only to the Nile monitor. But it's actually Africa's heaviest bodied monitor. So obviously not this particular guy, he's not full grown yet. And he's just come out of brumation. We're in spring at the moment, so he's just become active again. And he still has quite decent fat stores in his tail that he's utilised over that period. Reptiles are very efficient in that aspect. So some really unique things about this species you'll notice is how blunt the snout is. A lot of monitor species have almost a very long snout, and these guys are quite distinct in that aspect. So a very prehistoric look. He's quite chilled at the moment. They tend to, as a reaction, play dead basically. He thinks that if he is inactive then he'll be left alone, and of course we will put him back soon. So he's been quite well behaved. Some really great things about monitors is they have forked tongue, just like snakes. So a lot of dragons and other reptiles, lizards, they don't have that forked tongue like the snake, whereas the monitors do. And that's basically tasting the air in stereo. They also have some really, really strong limbs and claws that they'll use for climbing, for digging, for nesting, that kind of thing. Very strong tail, and that is actually used, if they're confronted, they can use that in defense, and they can whip it and use it as a bluff to try to avoid conflict. They also have very, very strong jaws. Now these particular monitors don't have very large teeth, but they do have very, very strong jaws, so they can inflict a decent bite. So these guys are quite prehistoric looking with the blunt snout, and another interesting feature is the nictitating membrane on the eye, and it's actually a vertical eyelid, and it's like a white bluish colour, and you'll see that it actually crosses over vertically before the eyelids close over it. So I'm not sure if you can see it there. So we might pop this guy back where we found him. There we go, buddy. Beautiful little guy. Okay.
We had two different elephant encounters on foot, both of them being exceptionally special, even to myself. was probably the best encounters I've done. And the first one was the elephant was behind the dam wall, which allowed us to actually get right up to the dam wall without the elephant even noticing that we were there. And we got to view it very, very close, probably not more than 10 meters away, and that elephant still just carried on feeding off a tree just on the other side of the dam wall, which was just phenomenal.
So my first elephant on foot encounter was probably the most exhilarating, just because there seemed like there was more of a danger factor. We basically crept up on this elephant. We were behind an embankment and it was on the other side feeding a young bull elephant. So it didn't actually know we were there. So it just meant we had to be a little more careful that we didn't startle it. Otherwise it could have given us a charge or, potentially a bluff. So that definitely got the heart racing, and I really enjoyed that experience. A fun fact about elephants is that they can actually eat 300 pounds in a day. That's about the equivalent of 136 kilos.
The second encounter we had, we saw two medium-sized bull elephants drinking at a waterhole, and myself and Fafa decided to make an approach. And obviously, being on the other side of the dam wall basically provides an object between ourselves and the elephant.
So the final image of the elephants that I chose, the lighting, it wasn't that interesting, and it's a lot of grey elephant on basically brown dirt. So I've gone with the black and white just to bring out all that texture, not only of their skin, but also the surroundings, the trees. And I got this image as we started to get up and back away. So as we became larger, it got the elephant's attention again. So that's when we got some nice ears out and very direct eye contact. So I was really happy with the result of this image, and especially as it came out in the black and white. Our next encounter was really exhilarating and a true African wild experience, something that a lot of people don't get to experience. So it's something I'll cherish and I'll never forget.
Africa on foot is not only about the big things, the big game. It's more about experiencing the bush in a different way, where we go out for a walking safari in the morning, and we pick up on tracks, signs. We teach guests about trees, medicinal uses, and all of that gets incorporated into a walk. And it's just a bonus if you do actually come across one of the big 5 members, because it's just such a phenomenal experience.